Funding for New Mexico in Focus provided by viewers like you.
This week on New Mexico in Focus, increasing alcohol taxes. Why lawmakers are seriously considering hiking the price for just the first time in nearly 30 years.
Our heart and soul needs to be front and center on this, which is our creative economy. And I think the potential for this is vast.
And supporting New Mexico artists, how a new agency could help create and expand creative industries in our state. New Mexico in Focus starts now. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Gene Grant. This week, we highlight the work of journalists placing a keen eye on the waning waters of the Rio Grande. In the second half of the show, our land senior producer Laura Paskus asks two reporters with Source New Mexico about the crisis their work is documenting. We also have our eye on the Roundhouse as we reach the halfway point of the 2023 session. At the bottom of the hour, our Line Opinion panelists discuss a proposed fund that would launch a paid family leave program statewide. But first, taxes. In about 18 minutes, our panelists weigh in on our proposed increase to the state's liquor excise tax and why some supporters say the move could help make the state safer. But we open our show with a discussion on a bipartisan tax plan that will cut the state's gross receipts tax rate. Let's get to the line. Welcome to our Line Opinion panelists for the week. We're happy to be joined in studio by Crystal Ciarza. She is owner and CEO of Ciarza Social Digital. Former State Senator Dee Dee Feldman right to her left. Always glad to have Ms. Feldman. And former State Representative Daniel Foley right there. Thank you all for being here. Now, our first topic today concerns taxes. At the Roundhouse this week, elected officials are considering a cut to the state's gross receipt tax rate. House Bill 367, a bipartisan bill, by the way, co-sponsored by 4 elected officials, would drop the state's GRT rate from 5% to 4.625%. Advocates say the bill says the move would save more than $400 million for New Mexican residents and, more importantly, small businesses. However, with that proposed tax cut, could mean a decrease in $70 million. Start with you, Senator Feldman, in tax revenue for counties and municipalities. Should this GRT tax be passed? Let's start at the very simple base here. What do we lose? What do we gain? What's the pluses and minuses of cutting versus not cutting?
Well, this is first of all a tax cut, and it's a tax cut that would also include an end to tax pyramiding,
yes.
Which is a long grievance, I think, that
That's
especially small businesses have had.
That's right.
It'll cost the state a lot of money, and it comes on the heels of a tax cut last year in gross receipts tax, which was phased in over 2 years.
That's right.
So it's going to hit the municipalities and the counties hard. What they usually do in response is they raise their portion of the gross receipts tax, so it doesn't benefit the consumer that much, unless there is some sort of a hold harmless clause, which prevents them from doing that and reimburses them for the lost revenue. So this is not tax reform, I don't think.
Right.
I think it's just another tax cut.
Right.
I was hoping that this legislature would really look at the whole tax structure.
That's right.
Rather than just giving away revenue. Also think about reforming the graduated personal income tax and some ways of picking up revenue as well as losing revenue. And I don't think this is it.
You're describing, though, that's a very hard thing. You know, if you take from one, somebody else loses. I mean, do we have to have a system like that?
Well, that's the tax system.
Yeah.
You have to look at it in a system-wide way. You can't just give away everything,
That's
or you
right.
can't just take in everything.
That's right.
It's got to be a balance, and therein lies the problem.
Exactly right.
That's where you need good legislators, bipartisan approach. We've tried to do it for years unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
Instead, we just keep giving one break, one deduction after another, and they're all important and they're all good, but they all add up.
By the way, on your point, it was 5.125 before it was reduced to 5% last year. And that was our first tax cut, GRT and the GRT, Dan, in 40 years, going down to 5%. But I got to ask you, 3 Republicans, 1 Democrat supporting, the governor is very much supporting. This feels like it's got a lot of momentum. Should we be cautious, though? Kind of the same question inside out.
Yeah, no, I don't,
Is there something?
No, I don't feel cautious at all. I feel like there's no lack of us making money as the government. Anytime the government can give money back, streamline the process, obviously I'm okay with that. The senator is correct on a lot of the stuff she said. I don't disagree with her at all. I do think there's a difference between the personal income tax and the gross receipts tax, and I think that they're looking at this from a business perspective. I do think, it's interesting in all the articles that we're reading, the cities and the counties and the municipal league, they're all, our stance is always anything that declines revenue for a city we say is a bad idea, which is insane. I mean, there's the potential that we are with our gross receipts, and more importantly, to the senator's point, it's not necessarily just the percentage, which is pretty high. It's the process of who pays it, who doesn't pay it, when you pay it, who collects it, how it goes in. Yes, that's the problem. Yeah. That's a huge problem. And so it does become a hindrance to especially small businesses, right? I mean, it's one thing to have to pay GRT when your business is making $100 million a year. Your staff does all of that. But if you're a mom and pop operation that has the potential to grow, you could really get yourself in a pickle with the gross receipts tax. I can give you an example. I had a constituent in Roswell that owned a hardware store. And I didn't realize that at the end of the year, through the gross receipts process, he would sell stuff. So if you came in, Gene, and said, listen, we're with a church, we have are exempt from gross receipts tax, and he doesn't charge you, when the state comes in and audits you, there's certain things like maintenance items that you have to pay taxes on, new construction items that you don't. But if he doesn't understand all of that, guess who owes the money? He does, right. Even though he didn't collect it from you.
Right.
And so it really, some of these businesses, I had constituents that would come to me on the gross receipts issue where, because they are the collector, it's not them paying it per se, right. They have to collect it, that they owe tens of thousands of dollars to the state, and it could be the difference between you staying in business or not staying in business. Mm-hmm. So I do think, we gotta, this has to be fixed. I do applaud the movement. I do applaud the fact that the governor is supporting this to move this forward. I do hope there's a hold harmless clause because the cities will turn right around and raise it. Right. The problem with the hold harmless, with the hold harmless clause though as well on the food tax. Remember, we gave the money, and then we did the hold harmless, gave the money, and then by the time the hold harmless was running out, they jacked it right back up again. And so it just is it seems like at the end of the day, no matter what reform we try, the person that loses in the end, it seems like, is the taxpayer.
I'm smiling because you and others, and Senator Feldman, you were in on this. 10 years plus ago, we talked about that food tax and what a problem it was, and how munis would just turn around and do their own thing once the state took their cut at it. But let me go back to pyramiding. Crystal, I got to get you in on this as a small business owner yourself.
Yeah, I have a lot of things to say.
There's a lot of clarity coming now. One of the things I appreciate in the argument is that it's finally becoming clear that bigger companies have an advantage here, meaning they can, and Dan knows this, you can have all these things that you don't have to farm out in-house, that you would have to collect GRT on. I'm not sure about your company's setup, but that's a huge problem for a lot of folks out there.
It is and it isn't. So I almost brought my company budget together just to kind of prove the numbers behind whether or not this would work.
You would
or
do
not.
that.
But when it comes to the actually farming out or whether or not you're outsourcing or insourcing, I do both, right? I have folks that are actually internally running the finances, but I also have folks like an accountant that would be exempt from this rule of gross receipts that would actually be outsourced. 9 times out of 10 small companies, yes, they specifically outsource. It actually does benefit the small business owner because if, let's say, for example, your monthly fee to an accountant is $1,000, you're not paying $1,070 anymore because of that 7%, or it would be less than that specifically. And the bigger companies, though, they use the argument that bigger companies are outsourcing for those specific entities. It's because of efficiency, operational efficiency, not because of and also cost savings. But at the end of the day, it's not going to really make a big difference. What nobody's talking about, though, nobody's talking about is the influx of expenses that all business owners, both small and large, have had to actually experience in the last 2 years, where a majority of expenses are actually being increased from 10 to 20%. That means rates are raising, prices, services, goods from 10 to 20%. And so, yes, you can make a big deal about 25, or was it 0.25% being lowered, but the municipalities are going to get it back anyways because we just all have to raise our rates.
That's a good point.
And so that's one thing that's not even taken into consideration. And if you are a business owner, what we've seen on the Asian Business Collaborative side is that majority of the businesses that have issues that they have to deal with, is that they don't understand gross receipts to begin with, the difference between sales and gross receipts. So the erroneous nature of taxation would actually be eliminated, where tax and rev doesn't have to come to us as small business owners, business associations, to actually explain what the percentages actually are.
That's a good point.
And it makes sense that Representative Harper is actually leading the charge, because what is Rio Rancho notorious for? Not getting enough gross receipts, because they lose the business from Albuquerque
Down the hill.
every single time.
That's right. Interesting points there. Very interesting points. I hope this is part of that discussion. And so is Senator Feldman. I want to go back to hold harmless for municipalities. It's going to be a heck of an argument. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the fundamental argument that the state can't really, at the end of the day, tell munis exactly how to run their business versus the other way around. Is there a middle ground here on this? Because we're going to need some clarity on this. If we can't get it done in one session, how do we get around in having a true reform package that I know you've been looking for a lot of years? So,
well, you know, it's a very complicated area, number one.
Yep.
But there have been bills passed in the past that have said counties can only raise their gross receipts tax a certain percent each year in an effort to address that. In addition, there is a possibility that the state could simply give the city of Albuquerque, for example, $30 million that it says it will cost every year. So in that case, the state is out not just the amount of lost tax revenue from, you know, lowering the gross receipts tax, but also the payments that it has to make to the municipalities every year.
Interesting
So it's a real sticky wicket, and that's why it's been so difficult to do in the past.
But I think municipalities actually have a bigger opportunity by simplifying the gross receipts process, because now more recruitment from economic development entities can come into the municipality and encourage more business to actually be there. Like Rio Rancho finally become a little bit more competitive than Albuquerque, and so once things are simplified, the opportunity door is wider for smaller municipalities to actually recruit more business. So therefore more gross receipts.
Interesting way to look at it. Actually, let me give you, if you do it in 30 seconds, are there any lessons to be learned from the time you guys were in the legislature about the Bill Richardson push to cut the personal income tax and how that turned around to be not exactly the greatest thing financially for the state of New Mexico? Is there a warning there from that period?
I think it was a good thing for the state of New Mexico. I don't think it's, you know, we in New Mexico, at some point we're going to realize municipalities, counties, the state. In New Mexico, and you and I argue about this all the time, Gene, we don't have a revenue problem, we have an expense problem. And at some point, you would have to stop saying that when you give money back to the shareholders, i.e. the taxpayers, the first response from elected officials is, well, now we don't have enough money to do what we need to do. You know, one of the things we always did, and I always tried to do, whenever we do these things and do the hold harmless clauses, I always tried to add language to the bill that said if the local government wants to pass a tax increase, they have to put it for a vote. It can't be done. You know, the city council can't meet and say, hey, we're going to up gross receipts by 0.25%. They actually got to go out and let the people vote on it. And when they do that, it's shocking how many of the voters don't vote for the increase, number one, and number two, how many of those cities and counties are still in existence today in New Mexico. They didn't blow away in the dust. So I think it just feeds the deal. We don't have a revenue problem as much as I think the state has a spending problem.
Good points there. Thanks to our line opinion panel there. We'll be back here at the table in less than 10 minutes to talk about a new bill to increase the state's tax on alcohol.
There are places where the river is breaking, where it is evaporating to sand and salt, and it is going away. And I think that we were able to spend time with people who remembered a very different river just a generation ago in Texas, seeing similar signs of the river they lost happening in New Mexico and even further upstream in the headwaters of the river.
New Mexico is known for its art, from paintings to pottery, music, and film. Our state is an inspiring place filled with creative people, but are we giving them enough support? That's the motivation behind a new House bill that would create a new state agency to highlight those creative industries. New Mexico in Focus political correspondent Gwyneth Dolan went to the Roundhouse to ask the bill's sponsor how it would benefit the state as a whole.
Representative Stefanski, you have a bill that would establish the New Mexico Creative Industries Division with $67 million. What are we talking about in terms of creative industries? We're here at the Capitol, which has an amazing art collection. Are we talking about painting, sculpture?
We're talking about visual artists, we're talking about sculptors, but we're also talking about dance, we're talking about video game design, architecture, the entire breadth of creative industries, which is incredibly vast. We also have ceramic artists and we have tile manufacturers. So it's pretty diverse and diverse in size as well.
So what would the economic impact be of investing money in a whole division just for this?
You know, this industry is already contributing $5.6 billion to New Mexico's economy, but as we are looking for solutions to further diversify our economy and prepare for that day when oil and gas revenue is not as significant as it is now in our state's budget, our heart and soul needs to be front and center on this, which is our creative economy. And I think the potential for this is vast, and that's why the size of the investment we're asking for is also significant, because it's everything from infrastructure to individual assistance for businesses, training of entrepreneurs, and everything in between.
So we're here in Santa Fe right now, which, you know, Santa Feans like to brag that this is the art capital of the state. So is this one big wet kiss for Santa Fe?
It is a big hug for Santa Fe, but honestly, it's a big hug for the rest of the state too. We have people working on this from all across the state, from Roswell to Farmington to Silver City, Las Cruces, Albuquerque, of course. So, you know, we know the arts economy is a very significant portion of Santa Fe's economy, but it's also a huge portion of Gallup's economy. You know, a number of individual artists in our country, in our state, is second to none in our country. So why not capitalize on all of these natural talents that we already have and help people grow so that they're not doing their art at night? You know, I met an Indian Market first prize winner a couple of months ago, and he has a day job. He has a day job. That day job pays his bills. It provides benefits for his family, and he's a nationally renowned artist. Can't we invest now so that someone like him can turn that art into a full-time job that really provides that living for his family?
So are we talking about giving $67 million to individual artists so they don't have to work during the day?
No, although I'm sure there would be many that would love to have that. What we're talking about is things like shared infrastructure, so maker spaces, housing for creative economy in professionals. What we're talking about is investments in those businesses so that they can expand. We're talking about workforce development so that we have a pipeline of folks that are ready to work in some of the larger creative industries. And then we're talking about shared community resources like gallery space, like here's a shared manufacturing facility that does 3D printing and also has all these other tools that are very expensive but can really help artists provide a living for themselves and their families. You know, we had a foundry in Santa Fe that was used by metal artists all over the region that recently closed in the last couple of years. All of that business is now going to Colorado because there are several foundries in Colorado. That's a kind of public-private partnership that we could have where we could bring in some state dollars to really make something like that stay afloat for the first few years so that our local artists could then utilize that and not have to drive their wares to Colorado. Colorado's actually, some of those businesses are sending folks to Santa Fe to pick up that work and deliver it after it's been produced. That's one example of economic opportunity that we want to have here. We want to have it here, based here, New Mexico owned, New Mexico run.
Thank you so much for telling us about this.
Thank you.
House Bill 8 was reported out of the House Commerce, Economic and Development Committee with a do-pass recommendation last week. Sticking with the legislature, a group of Democratic lawmakers is pushing an increase to the state's alcohol tax. Now, it's an issue we've covered here at New Mexico in Focus in collaboration with New Mexico in Depth for months now. Now, if House Bill 230 goes through, taxes would go up 25 cents a drink. The proposal would also dedicate an extra $155 million in revenue to support alcohol treatment centers. Now, another factor in this equation is New Mexico's nation-leading alcohol-related death rate. Last year here in New Mexico in Focus, I spoke with a panel of experts about some of the contributing factors and potential solutions. Now, during that discussion, journalist Ted Alcorn explained even slight tax increases on alcohol have been shown to lower alcohol death rates.
The basic economic principles of supply and demand say that when you raise taxes a little bit, you reduce demand some. And in this case, you particularly reduce demand by young people who don't have necessarily as much access to cash, and people that are really exposed to the price increases because they're consuming a lot of alcohol. And so the research has gone on over many years and in many states, and on my read of it all, it seemed pretty definitive that when you raise alcohol taxes, there's a reduction in consumption, and that you see a lot of reductions in the harms that alcohol can have.
You can watch that entire discussion with Mr. Alcorn, also a clinical psychologist, a primary care doctor in Gallup, and a state representative. That will be Joanne Ferrari. That's online right now at the New Mexico in Focus YouTube page. Now let's bring in our line opinion panelists to talk about the legislation at hand. The Health and Human Services Committee voted 6-4 Friday to advance House Bill 230, but it's facing opposition from the national alcohol industry and local breweries. Now, bills like this have been introduced before at the Roundhouse. And Daniel, is this the year that lawmakers approve the increase that has not happened for 3 decades plus? Is this the time?
Yeah, no, well, Gene, as we said in the last segment, and I know the senator's going to throw a pen at me. I'm never in favor of raising any taxes. We don't have a revenue problem. So, I don't know, we look at these things like, we talk about smoking cessation, for instance. We've raised the taxes on cigarettes. It's going to stop smoking. There's more people smoking today than there were 25 years ago. So none of this stuff.
That might not be true, but keep rolling. Keep rolling.
It's not wrong at all. I mean, we have. They may not be smoking cigarettes. We moved on to vape because we've created other things for them to do.
Industries are tricky that way.
So they are. So I think raising the taxes on alcohol, it's just, and especially now. I think you're going to find the same thing that's happened with tobacco. With Amazon Prime now, you'll just get people ordering alcohol from out of the state and having it shipped in, just like they did with tobacco, and you don't have to pay these taxes. So it becomes a huge problem.
Let me ask the senator about this. The proposed tax would increase the state's liquor excise tax 25 cents per drink. We have some folks out there against this. The Albuquerque Chamber actually is against it, amongst others. What's the harm? 25 cents a drink. Is anybody going to not drink because of that? A 25 cents increase?
Yes, people are not going to drink because of that. And it's young people. It's people that are extreme drinkers, binge drinkers. And it has been proven in other states to decrease DWI, to decrease binge drinking, youth drinking, and I think there was a study out of Boston University that said overall raising the taxes on alcohol decreases drinking by about 7%.
That's right.
That's a study. And the other states have actually done it and found a reduction. So I think it would be even more so in New Mexico because people don't have as much money and they're more price sensitive in New Mexico than they are, think about the Navajo Reservation, think about some of the rural areas of the state. It'll have a big impact.
That's an interesting point there. I hail from a state that raised taxes on alcohol many, many years ago, Crystal. And the idea of changing behavior via taxing is a difficulty for some people. They really have just an innate, dislike for that kind of thing. But as Senator is pointing out, it does work. It does change behavior by raising taxes.
It does, and what gets really challenging and tricky to us is that we have to take into consideration how alcoholism plays a big factor into socioeconomic levels. Like the LFC came out with their report on House Bill 230, and they said the highest would be Tennessee. Our neighboring states are only 16 cents, 8 cents, and 20 cents. That's Arizona, Colorado, and Texas at that great number. I think the big challenge, though, is that because New Mexico needs more resources for public health, specifically on addiction, like alcohol, it becomes really expensive to fund public health initiatives like this. I think the big challenge that people are starting to get really upset about, though, is that this fund is that increase is supposed to fund a new project, which would be called the Alcohol Arms Alleviation Fund. And Jerry Ortiz-Pino had a similar but different bill that hasn't even made it to committee yet, where he's like, don't put it into general fund, like don't put it into back to the state of New Mexico. Further pay for DWI prevention and items of that source. And out of full disclosure, like, we currently have a client that's DWI prevention, and I can tell you that the numbers and the brand awareness and the impressions, like the End DWI campaign, not our client, but as a good example, right? That awareness still needs to get out there, and the cost of advertising and marketing is not getting less.
Thank you
and
for
less.
saying this, because again, Daniel, the problem, the numbers are not good. How we drink here. You know what I mean? The ramifications and the interview with Mr. Alcorn and others, and especially the physician out in Gallup, the costs are enormous. They may be hidden. We may not see them as regular citizens, the enormous family costs. So again, why not, Daniel, if it decreases pain out there across the state? I hear your point earlier, but why
because
not?
It doesn't decrease pain, Gene. People find other alternatives to go to. Raising, like we hear this stuff here, like we heard just now, if we raise it 25 cents a drink, it stops youth drinking. Well, it decreases. How does it decrease it? Youths aren't buying drinks at bars. They're buying cans. They're buying bottles. They're not going to a bar and buying a shot of tequila. So at the end of the day, the problem is we, again, at this table, we have all these feel good, raise the tax, do all of this stuff. But where are we on the other side of it with holding people accountable when they commit a crime, making sure that they get the help they need, forcing them to get the help they need?
Part of the money is earmarked for that.
Well, we have plenty of money for that. We've had it for years, and we've had the laws for years, but we don't hold people accountable. Why are people, I mean, look at the news every day, Gene. There's people dying in DWI crashes that we find out that the person that was involved in the DWI crash, it's their 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th time. And you're telling me the answer to that problem is to raise the tax for people that are obeying the law, when we're not doing anything to hold the people who are breaking the law. And I do think there has to be a better element of the help, because there's no doubt about it. We have a whole segment of New Mexicans that you just can't lock them up. There has to be a systemic, conscious change. Yes, and we've got to work on that. But the answer isn't to say, how do we do this? Because look, and the other problem is anytime we create these funds in the legislature, it never does what it's supposed to do. Look at the Tobacco Settlement Fund. I mean, we burned through that thing. I mean, this happens all the time.
I hear you, but let me throw something else on the table. Kristen, I want you to follow up the senator on this one, because I think it's interesting. We have a lot of societal change right now about how we drink. Gen X and millennials are not throwing down booze the way boomers did. It's just a fact. You know what I mean? We don't.
Have you seen me on a Saturday?
I have. You're not as bad as boomers, trust me. And young people just don't do that. They don't get right. Exactly.
Well, it depends, right?
It does depend, but you know what I'm saying, Crystal? You know, in New York, bigger cities, you pay $45 for a specialty drink. You're gonna have like 1 or 2 of them a night, and you've had a great night.
Sure.
You're not out there throwing shots of tequila and, you know.
That's what pre-gaming's for, right? And so you're still going to get alcohol no matter what, and you're still going to affect the lower paychecks or the higher paychecks that some of the folks need. And yeah, you know, the fiscal impact of it is really going to make a change in decision making. But at the same time, like you were saying, like there has to be some type of systematic change that leads a person to drink in the first place, and that's what's really going to make the differences versus, you know, let's say for example, increasing the alcohol tax. It's just a little alarming about how high it's going to be and how, like you said, spending problem, how it's going to be spent.
That's a good point. Let me throw another one here for Senator Inall, if you'd like to get in on this, is that local breweries are now a big deal in our state, and they're generating a lot of income. A lot of folks are making, you know, good lives from this business, and they are opposed to this. Are they on solid footing here? Are they different than other alcohol because it's craft brew?
Well, they've gotten a tax, for example, they've gotten a tax break. We were talking about tax breaks in the past. They've gotten a tax break in the name of economic development and local industry. You know, I mean, you can look at it from the point of view of stopping drinking, and debate whether it does that or not, or whether anything will do that or not. But you can also look at it in terms of fairness, in terms of taxation, and whether we aren't even subsidizing the alcohol industry right now in the way we tax alcohol by volume and not by price, and in the fact that we haven't changed the darn rate for 50 years. Isn't that a subsidy to a special interest, whether it be a brewery, whether it be a winery, and the same argument that you were mentioning was made for wineries, and we gave them a tax break.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so it's just, to me, another example of a very powerful special interest group being questioned because of its huge advantage.
Are we at the point, Senator and House member, where this idea that these folks are all powerful has got to stop?
Well, no,
everyone talks about the liquor lobby in Santa Fe, like, oh.
Listen, the only thing, the number one issue on every legislator's mind, Gene, is re-election.
Okay.
Period. End of story.
Sure.
The worst place to be between a legislator and a TV camera. The more important thing is between legislators and fundraisers. I mean, it's all about getting reelected, and so yes, it means a lot to them. But at the end of the day, we have to look at, to the point that the senator was making, you know, I think we also should, we got to stop with all, she's right, all these special exemptions and cuts. But listen, I can tell you this, I'm not a drinker. I don't like to drink. I turn into bad Santa when I drink, so it's not a good thing for me. And so it's not I don't enjoy it. But I have we'll go out to the breweries. Right. I will tell you this, a lot of the breweries in town limit the amount of beer you can buy.
Absolutely.
Like you get 5 beers, and that's it, you're done. I mean, and
it's a beer limit, a 2-beer limit.
Whatever the number is.
It's
it could be
usually
2 or 3. I mean,
it's
they're doing things that, you know, if we're saying we're raising this tax just to help with drunk driving and alcohol stuff, then if you're going to hurt an industry that's making a conscious decision to say, listen, we got a 2-beer limit, that's all you could drink in this brewery.
That's a mandate for over-serving is illegal now.
Yeah,
that's not. It's not 2 beers. Senator, over-serving is a decision. The business is making a decision to say we will only sell you 2 beers.
Yes.
And so I think that we have to also, if we're going to punish bad behavior, we have to reward good behavior.
Good stuff there. Thanks again to the panelists. Up Dan Foley right there. Now we'll be back in just over 10 minutes for a discussion on paid family leave. But first, 2 local reporters document how the state's ongoing drought is impacting communities and environments along the 700 miles of the Upper Rio Grande. Our land senior producer Laura Pasca sat down with Source New Mexico reporters Danielle Prokop and Diana Cervantes to discuss their new series, Crisis on the Rio Grande.
Welcome you to 14 stories across 700 miles of the Rio Grande. This is great work, and I am really enjoying these stories as they're continuing to roll out. So thanks for being here with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you so much, Laura.
So Danny, let's start with you. In a nutshell, and I know this is a big ask, but in a nutshell, what is the crisis on the Rio Grande?
The crisis on the Rio Grande is that it's not a wild river in more and more places. There are places where the river is breaking, where it is evaporating to sand and salt, and it is going away. And I think that we were able to spend time with people who remembered a very different river just a generation ago in Texas, seeing similar signs of the river they lost happening in New Mexico and even further upstream in the headwaters of the river.
Yeah. So Diana, your images that I've seen so far of the river are really beautiful, and sort of you evoke the landscape, but I'm really smitten with so many of the people you photographed along the way. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing your screen and introducing us to some of those people, telling us a little bit about some of those folks you met along the way.
Of course. Let me just quickly share my screen. So one of those wonderful people is, as you see here, is Estela Padilla. She grew up around the river, and she has seen that same river dry up, and now it only exists in her memory. And so it's kind of a cautionary tale of what can happen for the rest of us that are upstream. And her memories of the river are sort of a lamentation, as she calls it. And one of the beautiful things she says about it is that the river is like the circulatory system of the body. If you cut it out, you die. And so we gleaned a lot from her. So she was one of those very special people. We then moved along to meet John Sproul, who is the father of the Bosque. He is taking care of the Rio Bosque Wetlands Park in El Paso. And this past summer, because of the drought, they had to hand water a lot of trees. We also spoke with the amazing Phoebe Suina, a hydrologist with Cochiti Pueblo. And speaking with her, it was evident that she lives with this very painful and stark presence, which is the Cochiti Dam and what happens when humans interfere in the wild spaces. So it was wonderful to learn from her. We also met with the amazing Wesley No, who I call the lone fighter for the Oxbow that is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Not many people know of it, but he's doing his water studies out there. And so he took us to some parts of it. And it was wonderful to see how these wild places can be so special and hopefully motivate us to also take care of them. We spent some time with folks from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service attempting to save some of the endangered silvery minnow. Only 4 people fighting along the stretch of a long river to save these little guys, and it was just heart-wrenching. Thomas R. Deacon, who's not pictured here, said something very powerful about the work they're doing. They love what they're doing. They're trying to do the best they can. But he said it's like slapping a Band-Aid on a severed limb. So it's giving us the scope of what they're undertaking. Not only has climate change impacted the native spaces or the environment, but it also has impacted daily life activities, especially in Carnuel. Here is this group of individuals who go up and bless the Ojo Spring, and because of drought, they haven't been able to actually make the full trek because it's so dangerous to do it in the heat. So we're seeing how even climate change is affecting native traditions. And in Colorado, we spoke with Kyler Brown, who understands the impact of agriculture that has on the environment, and he is trying to do his best to implement greener practices in his day-to-day ranching, even while he tries to make a living by even cutting down things that they use for crops, such as barley for the Coors beer. And then we spoke with the amazing Linda Schoonover, who we spent time with her out on her farm, and she has also cut back on the amount of cattle she raises. She's seen a lot of impacts on the environment, especially in the San Luis Valley. And she learns a lot from the animals she cares for. One of the beautiful quotes she said was that animals have so much to teach us. She said, if you ever look in a cow's eyes or a horse's eye, you see a wisdom there that they know something you don't. So this is her out in her field. But yeah, these are just some of them. This is just touching base. There's a lot more, and I hope you guys can tune into the stories that Danny and I have poured our hearts into.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing those. It's lovely to see those people, and really, you're so talented, Diana.
Thank you, Laura.
So last summer, river drying moved into the Albuquerque Reach, and I think, as you both well know, the river has dried south of Albuquerque for many years. And when that drying came into the Albuquerque Reach, more people started paying a little bit more attention. But I was wondering what struck each of you about covering that, because I know that you were here on the ground when that was happening last summer.
It's so hard to keep the river in memory is something that strikes me. When the monsoons hit, so John Thompson has described it as a green veil, right, that covers our eyes. And I find that maybe speaking with more people, even across the San Luis Valley, all the way down to the Forgotten Reach, that maybe the veil is finally being drawn back in a more substantive way. We're even seeing that the rain, when it comes, or when the snowpack is better than it has been, that even that is not enough. And so that maybe the river is more held in memory, but it's so hard with this amnesia, I think, that happens in wet years and dry years. When you're in drought, you don't remember what it's like to have a running river. And when you do have a running river, you don't remember just how fragile and how close to the edge it really is.
Yeah. What about you, Diana, as you were photographing that?
I mean, for me, it was it's kind of like a time capsule, right? Like even people in the San Luis Valley were saying, it's beautiful now, but it was even more beautiful when we had constant rain. And so even to think about how there's so many things that we have missed because I think about it, I'm like, oh wow, if I was just capturing this a few years ago, it might have been so different. Or even just taking the photos of the Rio Grande National Forest and seeing all these dead trees, that just kind of was like a gut punch. You drive through and you see like these toothpicks just sticking out and you're like, wow, I remember driving through here years and years before, and it was this beautiful lush green place, and now it's like there's so many patches of just dead trees. And I don't know, it was crazy to see things actively dying before your eyes, and hopefully trying to capture as much as you can so you can share it with people, and hopefully they can also feel the disappearance happening.
Yeah. So I appreciate that this story looked across the watershed and across 3 states instead of, the way that we cover the news of the river is often very piecemeal. So I really appreciate that about this series. But I also like that so many of the stories feature people grappling with moral issues. And I'm curious what you both think that, what are the moral questions that we all need to be asking, not just a farmer, not just a water manager. What are these big moral questions we need to really grapple with?
It's so fascinating to understand the river. We kept seeing these parallels of spirituality, right? Whether it was the poetry that was invoked in people, speaking with Estella further downstream, talking about her heart being cut out, right, when the cottonwoods died around and the river dried, to then speaking with someone up in the San Luis Valley who'd never met Estella, talking about how his heart, right, was like hurt by looking at the river. It was so fascinating to see it as a connective tissue. And I think too, the huge moral questions that we are grappling with is that the river is changed by choice. It was changed by human choices, which are now being, the heat is being turned up. It's being burned, without our control, with climate change. But that too is human caused, right? So these questions are choices. All of this river, the way that it is now, is a choice that we're making. And I'm not saying those choices are easy. I'm not saying that changing those choices would be in any way, shape, or form easy. I just think that now with less water, those choices on sovereignty, on agriculture, on ecology, they're staring us in the face now, and it's much more life and death.
What about you, Diane? Any last words?
Oh my goodness, I think Danny said a lot, but I think when it comes to morality, I think we just have to question ourselves and say, what can I do? I don't know if this answers your question, but a lot of, some of the people that I talk to, even in other projects, they're like, I could either feel helpless and do nothing about it, and feel helpless and do something about it. And so I think right now, apart from just questioning our morality and what we can do and seeing hopefully how these people have shared so much of their lives, and hopefully that inspire us to do our part, but to really spend time out there and see what we're about to lose. If we spend time in nature, if we spend time in it, we understand it and we feel its special presence, and we decide to fight for it.
Right. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that you're both really proud of this series. It's really such a testament to your hard work, and really a gift to everyone who reads it. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's time to welcome back our panelists for one final discussion tonight. State officials are debating a proposed bill that would create a paid family leave program for workers across the state. Now, if approved, Senate Bill 11 would require employers and employees to make regular payments to a state fund that would allow qualified employees 12 weeks of paid leave to care for personal family matters. This bill comes 1 year after state lawmakers, you might remember this, created a mandate that businesses provide paid sick leave to their workers. And Crystal, Is mandated family leave the logical next step here, or are there some landmines that could be stepped on along the way that are unseen? It just seems so simple, but something seems debatable here. I'm curious where you are.
I'm not the model business owner to say, especially when I've served on various different economic development task forces for both Rio Rancho and Albuquerque. Yep. The perspective of paid family leave doesn't help the business owner with another regulation or regulatory policy that they have to take into consideration. However, one of the arguments I used to make about paid family leave or paid sick leave in this instance is that the business owner really needs to evolve themselves into being a more family-friendly employer or a more ethical employer. And so, for example, my company does pay family leave, and we're, like you had mentioned off air, is that, wow, you guys are a little bit more forward-leaning and progressive. No, it's just the right thing to do, because if all of our employees of birthing age, or most importantly, all of our employees are actually at a point where their parents are aging, family leave is incredibly important no matter where it is. And that's what's very common in our industry. So family leave is just an example of how you can be a better employer. Whether the mandate is a good mandate to begin with, it is really challenging because business owners don't like to be told what to do.
Just point there.
Yeah,
right.
end of discussion. And I think, while we were talking off camera, there is a really important clause to take into consideration in this bill is how is it going to be regulated. That's right. HWA actually is very well regulated, HWA being the Healthy Workplaces Act, right? And so HR companies working with ours, it was very easy for every 1 hour, or for every 30 hours you work, there's 1 hour. End of discussion. That's not hard to manage and monitor if you have the right resources. This one, you have to pay the state. You can even hear Secretary Nair in a lot of in the interviews that she's really nervous if this actually becomes a thing in Workforce Solutions.
Interesting points here. Employees, Senator, must have worked for 90 days to qualify, and the cost to employers would be $4 for every $1,000 of wages. And employees would pay $5 for every $1,000 of wages. Sounds pretty simple so far, but my question is, Crystal brought up something interesting, that there's a lot of nuance here depending on the age range of folks. What about this for young families, for women employees? I mean, there's lots of different ways to look at this as opposed to a big blanket deal. Anything about this concern you when it comes to women particularly, and how this would affect employees?
Well, I think this will particularly help women, because women are normally the family caregivers, whether it be for their parents or for their children, and of course they are the ones that need leave when they're pregnant and have just given birth. So it's a bill that will really help women, but it will help the whole family, and I think that's the point. And I think it's also important to mention that this is not for small businesses under 5 employees. So most New Mexico businesses are under 5 employees. I think there's something like 160,000 of them in New Mexico. We're a small business state. So this doesn't apply to them. And for better or worse, I think it was just cost too much for small businesses. But it's also, I think, a way to attract employees too, if you have this kind of benefit, and that's important too.
Interesting point there, Crystal. The Kaiser Family Foundation says that less than half of employed women across the country say their employer offers paid parental leave. I got to think it's an opportunity, the way what Senator is mentioning.
It is. So you have to look at it from both sides. So yes, the employees are going to see that it's going to be more favorable to work for a company that's going to be accommodating to their life values and their lifestyle, including fathers. You have to take into consideration adoptees and parents would actually benefit from paid sick leave. However, one of the challenges that you run into from the business owner side is the fact that you're at 4, right? You're at 4 employees or 4, and it doesn't specify, is it FTEs or part-timers, right? So because technically 2 part-timers equals 1 full-timer. So past that nomenclature, you have to think about, when we looked at the Obamacare Act, there was a lot of companies that don't want to be over 50 because they don't want to pay that the health care limitations or that mandate. So 5 employees for paid sick leave will actually be a growth stunter for a lot of companies because they'll have to go, and if you could run the numbers again, it was for every $5 $5 for every 5,000
1,000.
for 1,000 that they own. So if you do the math, that's like I can't do the math very fast, but that could actually stunt growth for one employee, a new service, a new contractor, etc. So there becomes it really screws up with the pro formas and the projections for down the road, and also the growth that they want to have to take into consideration. So for us, every time we have to add a new benefit mandate at CRZA, that actually means that could cost us between $10,000 to even $30,000 per year, and that those numbers are not taken into the debate of paid leave.
Like an employer, I like that. Dan, interesting. I'm going to dovetail off something. There's a bigger picture here, perhaps.
You're coming to me for the
Yes, I am.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I am. And I'm going to vote Senate Pro Tem Mimi Stewart while I'm asking you. Anyway, she's the sponsor, and Senate Majority Whip Michael Padilla is in on this as well, meaning a reduction in infant mortality and child abuse. That's the long goal here. Meaning that, stability, a bigger picture if the bill is approved. Would you agree with that? If that's a possibility?
I mean, I don't know how that's going to play out. I mean, I think that, listen, we have a problem in the world right now. There's a lot of people who aren't fit to be parents who are parents, and sometimes putting the kids with them more often for more time is not necessarily the right move. Which has been the argument in New Mexico, right? When we've had this argument with CYFD on getting kids back in with their families. Sometimes kids don't belong back in with their families. I think one of the things that happens is that lots of times there is a motive to pass a piece of legislation, and both sides start going to extreme emotional discussions about why we're doing this. When the reality is, I think the intentions are right behind this, but I think, what worries me is, once again, we're going to take all this money, we're going to give it to the state. I haven't read the bill. I got to go on record with that. But I mean, so what happens? I remember not too long ago when I was in the legislature, in some cases that's a very long time ago, we had the unemployment tax and we had this huge surplus, and the legislature was going to give it back to the employees. It's 100% paid by the employer, and they were going to figure out a way to give it back to the employees. Now this bill says it's going to be, how do you decide what dollar goes back to who? And then, as we've seen many times with this type of stuff, we've seen it with the gas tax, right? We have a gas tax in New Mexico. The gas tax is intended to do what? Fix the roads and bridges in the state. What do? We take that money, it goes to the general fund. We find ways to use it for other things. So I think, when we start telling businesses, hey, we got a great idea. We're the government. We have a great idea. You're going to give us money, and we're going to help administer this program for you. I don't think we have a great track record.
Let me ask the same question for Senator. Again, that long play about infant mortality. 12 weeks of leave. It's been proven by study after study that a mom that is able to stay home and connect with her child leads to much better outcomes for that child down the road. She's a lovely lady, I've heard. Not from you, but from others. 12 weeks in this bill, that's a long time. The 11 states that have a similar deal that's passed only require 8 weeks of paid leave. So I'm asking, is there a middle ground here you can sense in your gut that possibly could make this more palatable for bipartisan support on this idea that it helps families in the long run to have this?
Well, as a mother, I don't think that 12 weeks is too long.
Thank
because it takes a while to bond with your child. And the first 2 weeks, I almost don't even count that. Because
any parent can connect to what you just said.
Yes. It's so
like
difficult.
A blur.
I mean, it is difficult.
For some reason, it wasn't very difficult for me. I
Yeah.
don't understand
I wonder why.
I know. I mean, these creatures do not come with operators' manuals, and so you have to learn, and the child really benefits more than you think as when you're doing the mothering and putting in the time. So I think it is important in the same way that we now recognize that early childhood education is extremely important in setting the stage for later life.
Crystal, I want to come back to something you mentioned that I'm so fascinated with. The idea of a state-funded family leave program, could that incentivize companies that already provide paid family leave like yours to actually opt for the state option? Is that something you've thought about as well?
So of course, numbers, right?
Right.
Again, I almost brought my budget. I almost brought the balance sheet that I have in my company, because it actually would become a little bit of an accounting nightmare. And I say that it'll become a little bit of an accounting nightmare because paid leave, paid time off, and paid sick leave is actually a liability for a company. It may possibly eliminate alleviate the liability on the worth of a company
Okay.
Down the road. But at the same time, it also becomes kind of a pain because of the fact that the money has to leave hands. The number one challenge that small businesses have is cash flow.
I gotta wrap you there. I'm hearing you. It's a problem to
It's a
stay or
challenge.
go. Depending on a state-run program, like Dan's saying, it comes fraught with things. Thanks again to our line panel as always for this week. These guys were terrific. Be sure to let us know what you think about any of the topics these folks covered on our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram pages, and catch up on any episode you may have missed on the PBS Video app on your Roku or Smart TV.
Hi, I'm Laura Paskus, senior producer of Our Land. We work hard to bring you environmental news as part of New Mexico in Focus. We take you out to the mountains and down to the river. We invite top-notch sources into the studio, but there is so much happening when it comes to climate change, water, fire, environmental justice, and more that we just can't fit it into the show every week. That's why we have a newsletter, Our Land Weekly, that comes out every Tuesday. If you want to keep up with environmental news, just published peer-reviewed studies, and more, sign up. It's free, it's easy, and I promise you'll learn a lot.
Much thanks to the panel for the discussion and to my colleague Laura Paskus for her discussion with those two reporters from Source New Mexico on our Rio Grande water woes. Now, speaking of water woes in New Mexico, let me point you to another serious water issue happening under the feet of many of our smaller communities, particularly the reporting from Searchlight New Mexico on the truly frightening problem of water lines failing in Truth or Consequences right now. Now get this, nearly half of TRC's water supply lines are more than 50 years old, with a resulting loss of over 200 million gallons of precious water lost to leakage. Ha! That's nearly 45% of their water. It's an incredible read, truly frightening because, as Searchlight reports, it'll cost north of $20 million to replace the currently leaking pipes and $150 million for the whole system in Truth or Consequences. Now, this is a familiar story across our state because the inability to keep water infrastructure up to date through local use rates has caught up with us. It's not enough money. TRC cannot handle a $150 million nut with more local tax increases, which they did to the tune of 30%, and you can't tighten any more belts either for $150 million. Now, the Legislative Finance Committee reported in 2021 that our state, quote, likely needs more than $2.8 billion in repairs to our water systems, and add to that funding is often piecemeal, end quote. In TRC, government officials, and here's the real problem, in the recent past habitually moved money residents paid into the water fund into the general fund to pay for other things. That's madness, all too common. Now, in many states, it's illegal to do that, and we need to think about that. I love TRC. I've been there twice in the past recent months, and seeing all those orange barrels on that amazing Main Street right now hurts. And by the way, that work was paid for by a $3.9 million rural development grant. You can see what's coming, folks. All it's going to take is one major break in TRC with no one getting water to wake this part-time legislative body up that there is a statewide lit fuse on our most precious resource. It's time to make taking money marked for water infrastructure for other uses not possible in New Mexico. It's also time for a statewide bailout plan for the 2/3 of our water systems that serve 500 or fewer customers. They're all in the same boat. Thanks again for joining us, for staying informed and engaged. We'll see you again next week in Focus.
Funding for New Mexico in Focus provided by the viewers like you.